Okay, we are live. Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining Wikimedia Ukraine session. My name is Anton Protyuk. I am Programs Coordinator at Wikimedia Ukraine and a Wikipedia volunteer in my spare time. So today we'll share stories and insights from organizing two projects that aim to bridge content gaps on Wikipedia and Wikimedia Commons. As you know, the nature of Wikipedia and its sister projects is that they are incomplete by design and constantly being improved by a large community of volunteers. But some topics are worse represented than others, and some topics can benefit from organized contests and challenges as a way to boost their coverage on Wikipedia and other sister projects. So today we'll discuss Wikimedia Ukraine's experience in organizing two such challenges. International Wikilovs Earth, the photo contest, and the Ukrainian edition of WikiGap. As usual for this Wikimania, we'll try and reflect on the past, assess the present, and share our plans for the future. A couple of words on our plan for this session. The session is 45 minutes, and we will divide it roughly equally between the two topics. So first Wikilovs Earth, and then second WikiGap. You're welcome to submit your questions and comments and ideas, and we'll have 2 rounds for answering them after each segment. I will lead the second segment, the one about WikiGap, and for the first one, I'm happy to present my colleagues from the International Wikilovs Earth organizing team. So Anastasia Petrova, who is the project manager for the contest and coordinates the contest on the day-to-day basis, and Mykola Kozovanko, also known as user Nikkei, a long-time organizing team member, Wikipedia administrator, and Wikimedia Ukraine's board member. Anastasia and Mykola, welcome. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to start telling about Wikilovs Earth International Photo Contest, and then during the presentation, I will give the word also to Mykola. And then you can also ask your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them all. To start the presentation, I will share my screen. Just a second. And I'll ask to Mykola to confirm if you can see my screen. Perfect. So we will start to talk about bridging content gaps through large-scale campaigns, and we start with International Wikilovs Earth photo competition. So what is it? What is actually Wikilovs Earth is about? It's an annual photo competition devoted to natural heritage. So each year, starting from 2013, each year we have a photo contest on the international and local levels where we gather pictures of protected sites from all over the world, and we are choosing the best ones on both local and international levels. We have countries that take part in the competition. So firstly, participants can submit their submissions on the local level, and of the photos of the protected sites of the countries that participate in the particular year. Then our local teams, they choose the best photos on their local level and submit their winners to the international level. Then we are analyzing all the pictures from all participating countries, and we choose the best ones as international winners. What is the goal of the contest then? It's the main ones. We will also talk about the importance of the contest later on in the presentation, but overall, if to talk briefly, the main goal is to draw attention to protected sites, to protect nature heritage sites, and create the biggest database of free photos of these protected sites everyone can check and use in their work or daily life. It's also worth to mention that Wikilovs Earth is the second biggest Wikimedia photo contest after Wikilovs Monument, the sister contest. And we are growing, of course. And what is the Wikilovs Earth history? As I mentioned before, the contest has started in Ukraine in 2013. So firstly, it was only one country participating, and it received a big number of uploads. We will talk about the statistics later on. So you will have the opportunity to see the number of uploads and all the stats. And after that, more countries joined, and the contest became international in 2014. And each year after that, it was growing and growing, and then we had the biggest number of countries participating in Wikilovs Earth in 2019. And that year it was 37 countries that has their local Wikilovs Earth photo contest going on all around the world during May and June. And then the last year, in 2020, we had 34 countries, and this year we also have 34 countries and territories participating. And we have ambitious plans to involve more and more communities, and we will talk about this later on as well. Are there any questions in the chat? I will ask Mykola to let me know, because I'm sharing the screen and can't open the questions. Can you tell me if there are any?
I don't see any in the chat. Maybe there are in the other part. Anton, can you check the other part?
No, there are no questions yet.
Okay.
I think we have time after the segment after the presentation.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Then I'll ask my colleague Mykola to talk a bit about the stats.
Okay. So as you can see, we started in 2013 with only one country, and we were steadily growing from 2014 when we were at 14 countries. And for the last 4 years, we stabilized around like 35 countries every year. And every year since this contest became international, we are bringing about 100,000 pictures to Commons, which may sound, I mean, it's difficult to evaluate if it's big or not, but what is the most specific measure where you can see the impact of Wikilovs Earth on Wikimedia Commons is by the number of registered uploaders. That every year, owing to Wikilovs Earth campaigns, we have between 6,000 and 13,000 of new editors who join Wikimedia Commons and make their first upload during Wikilovs Earth period. If you are looking at different statistics of Wikimedia Commons, typically the graphs of new registered users who become active, you can see huge peaks in May and June, which are typical Wikilovs Earth months, which are sometimes even bigger than Wikilovs Monuments peaks in September. So that we are seeing that Wikilovs Earth is really big in bringing new users to Wikimedia Commons and bringing new photographers. And we are also quite successful in increasing geography of Wikimedia Commons contributors and bringing new people to the movement, particularly because our geography covers very many countries in like global south. We are covering, we are every year having about 10 countries from Africa, from Asia, from South America who are participating. We have a lot of countries who join Wikilovs Earth as their like first big affiliate projects, typically new user groups who are looking into joining a big international project, which increases the geography every year. So that's not always the same 35 countries. Every year we have a few newcomer countries who join, and we are obviously welcoming new countries every year, and we are happy to see them join and happy to train them and learn. And we can see that every year there are about 20 to 30% of pictures who are used on Wikimedia projects, which is a very healthy metric showing that these pictures are really useful. Next, please. So what Wikilovs Earth is important for? Firstly, Wikilovs Earth is about nature, and we are willing to cover this nature-related gap on Wikimedia projects. Wikilovs Monuments started with covering like cultural heritage gap, we are covering the natural heritage gap, which is sometimes even bigger, because if cultural heritage monuments are typically in the centers of big cities where many tourists are going, natural monuments are often a bit more distant, and you need sometimes a bit more expertise to contribute about those. So we help raise awareness about these natural sites in different countries. Sometimes typically our local organizers publish lists of natural heritage in their country, sometimes even for the first time on Wikimedia projects, because if they're not published in some well-available places before, or they convert it to structured data via Wikidata. It helps track the current state of natural sites, because looking at photos from 2014 to 2021, you can see the impact of, on the positive side, you can see impact of some conservation efforts, that you can see, for example, that natural park is better preserved, the trees becoming healthier, and so on. Or you can see negative effects of human impact on the nature, like pollution, like global warming effects, if glaciers are melting, and so on. So the nature is changing, and that's Wikilovs Earth that helps document it. And sometimes people can also upload pictures from older times, like pictures from 2010 or 2005, and you can see how nature looked 15 years ago, which is really important for encyclopedia. Next, please. We also drive the development of local communities. Firstly, participating in a big international contest helps to grow the capacity of local communities. For some countries, it's a first big project. For some countries, it's a great opportunity. For some countries, it's a great opportunity to develop their contact. Sorry. For some countries, it's a good opportunity to develop their relations with partner organizations, to raise awareness about the opportunities to contribute photographies to Wikipedia, and in this way, they develop partnerships with nature protection organizations, with museums, with national parks, with photography organizations. And it also motivates contributors to go out and explore their natural heritage sites, making some wiki tours, some expeditions, and basically having fun together, spending good time with your volunteers, discovering new people who want to volunteer organizing projects in your country, and by this, growing the affiliate organizations, growing the community, online communities, which is very helpful which is a very helpful experience for local communities. Next, please. And it's also good for Wikipedia, obviously. We are building a large database of free photos of natural heritage that can be used by anyone, and that in most cases are well structured with categories, with metadata, and sometimes even linked to Wikidata if local countries have already organized it. As about 20 or 30% of pictures are used in articles, so that really serves the purpose of illustrating articles, making them more informative and appealing to readers, bringing this visual information, particularly how the nature evolved with the time, how the natural site is looking in different seasons, and so on. And it helps us reach new contributors on nature-related topics, because it needs we need those experts. We need people who are experts in nature protection. We need experts in ecology, in biology, and this contest really drives them. We are seeing in many communities that it's a very good outreach opportunity to welcome new editors, to reach these communities that were underrepresented before. Next, please. So what happened on Wikilovs Earth for this 9 years? So we started first in Ukraine in 2013, when we got 11,000 pictures of just 1,100 natural monuments out of the 7,300 that we were aware of in Ukraine, which is quite a good proportion. We covered in just 1 year, and we moved international in 2014. There was a particular category in 2016 to 2018 in partnership with UNESCO, so that helped allow people who were in a country where there was no local contest, either because the local community was not willing to organize or didn't have enough capacity or experience to do it. They could participate anyway by uploading pictures of any UNESCO biosphere reserves. And this helped us get photos of about 120 different countries that had UNESCO biosphere reserves. These were just, in most cases, a few pictures per country, but this was a great opportunity to welcome photographers, to welcome users, to document sites where we couldn't organize a local edition of Wikilovs Earth, but where there were very valuable natural sites of worldwide importance. And so far, until this year, we have received 700,000 photos, with 2021 data pending because the contest is still ongoing in a few countries. And 20 to 30% of those are used on wikis, which is really great. Next one, please. I think it's you, Anastasia, right?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mykola. And now I will talk about the Wikilovs Earth 2021. We also about reflecting on the past. We have a video of one of our local organizers, and we will show it if we have time in the end, or we'll send the link so you can check it out on YouTube. What about Wikilovs Earth this year? How is it going now? Now we are focusing on online engagement because as the world has gone fully online, we don't have as much offline events going on. We encourage people to explore their photo archives, to use photos they already have, and we are encouraging people to stay safe, of course. And this year, taking into account that in many countries there are different periods of time when it's best to organize the contests. Due to the pandemic, we have flexible dates, so we have not only May and June as contest months, but we were also allowing countries to extend their contests, and some of them are still organizing it in August. For example, such countries are Uganda and Portugal. This year, we also expanded our category, so we not only have the main top list of pictures, the best pictures on the international level, but we also introduced new categories, such as the first one is landscape photography, and the second one is macro or close-up photography, where we have different species, such as birds, animals captured. And we have a special category, human rights and environment, where we have different violations and different ecological problems captured. And with this category, we want to raise awareness of them and reach out and also illustrate such problems in articles as the one of the main aims of the contest, of course. And we have 35 countries and territories participating, with some of them joining for the first time. For example, Wales and the Caribbean territories, I'm sorry. And the number is growing through over the years. We hope to involve more. And what's going to happen next? We are analyzing experience and lessons learned about our contest categories. We improve processes and brainstorm on new categories. So one of the points of improvement in the contest, we will adjust the experience we have with macro, close-up, and landscape categories. We will introduce new ones. Also, we will try to promote the contest more and more to involve more countries to participate and territories as well. We'll work on finding new contest partners with which we can organize some special categories, with which we can organize some communication campaigns and so on. And also we will work on adding more photos to articles. As you could see from the statistics, we have a really big number of submissions, and also one of our aims and what's important to us, that these submissions are being used. So we will work on adding more photos to Wikipedia articles and lists. There are our contacts if you're interested to contact us or ask any question, and follow us on social media pages, Wikilovs Earth, where you can follow all our news. Let's see if we have time for the video from our local organizer. I think we can show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we do. I don't see any questions, so I see greetings from Ukraine and Nigeria. Yes, so I will now show the video from Sweden.
I work as a project manager. Hi everyone, my name is Erik Luth and I work as a project manager for the Swedish chapter of the Wikimedia movement. For the last few years, I've also been managing the Swedish Wikilovs Earth competition, which I think is one of the most fun and engaging campaigns to work with in the Wikimedia movement. I also happen to live in a biosphere reserve. Biosphere reserves are a bit like, the UNESCO World Heritages, but with natural heritage and focusing on the relation between man and nature. There are 7 biosphere reserves in Sweden, and last year we included them for the first time in the Wikilovs Earth campaign. It was a collaboration with the Swedish National Commission for UNESCO. That also meant that we could increase the amount of places in Sweden where you could take part with a photo in Wikilovs Earth with quite a lot. It meant a new channel for communication. It meant new partnerships with local partners, which made it possible to attract a lot of newcomers to the competition. Actually, we saw the amount of photos and participants increase or even double last year. I think it was one of the most exciting innovations that we have done during the last few years in the Swedish Wikilovs Earth competition. The Swedish National Commission for UNESCO also issued a specific prize for the best photo taken in a biosphere reserve. Last year, we also innovated with presenting all the items that are included in Wikilovs Earth in Sweden on a map. We worked with the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency to get the data and the files needed in order to make it possible to render the items on a map. This map also showed all the items, or all the nature reserves and biosphere reserves and so on, that already had a photo in Wikimedia Commons, and the ones that lacked one. That worked as an incentive for a lot of people to go into their vicinities and take a lot of photos of places that didn't already have a file on Wikimedia Commons. I think we're looking into a bright future for Wikilovs Earth in Sweden. There's a lot of interest from civil society and other partners. There's a lot of interest from Wikimedians and the community on Wikipedia and the other platforms in Sweden. And we have just seen the beginning of what innovations can do for the Wikilovs Earth campaign in Sweden. I think that one of the most important parts to go ahead is to continue to lower the barriers for people to join the competition. There's a lot of people, maybe especially elderly, who would like to contribute with their photos, but who currently don't understand how it works, because Wikimedia Commons can be a bit complicated, and getting all the IDs and everything in order is even trickier. So we hope that we'll be able to continue to work with the same partners, find new partners, and find new ways of making it easier for everyone to take part in Wikilovs Earth.
Okay, thanks so much to Anastasia and Mykola for sharing the part about Wikilovs Earth, and thanks to Eric for sharing his story. And I'll now go to the second segment of our presentation, to the segment about Ukrainian WikiGap. And here we go. You can see the slide.
Yes.
Great, thank you. In this segment, I'd like to talk about the challenges and the road ahead for WikiGap in Ukraine. First, I'll present the context. What is WikiGap and what is the context for WikiGap in Ukraine? I'll share some of the past and present achievements we've made over the last 4 years, and I'll focus on some of the people who made it possible. Of course, not all of them, but showcase some stories, and then briefly tell about the future, about the plans and the plans we have and challenges we are thinking on resolving. And of course, I will welcome your questions and ideas in Q&A now or via email later. Okay, so what is WikiGap? WikiGap is the worldwide campaign for closing the gender gap on Wikipedia. It's focused on writing articles about women on Wikipedia so we can bridge the gap in biographies. As you probably know, there are much more biographies about men than about women on Wikipedia. WikiGap was established by Wikimedia Sweden and the Swedish Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2018. And it's held once a year in the spring during March and April in many countries across the world. Ukraine joined WikiGap in 2018 when it was first organized. It was organized first by Wikimedia Ukraine with support of local partners, and it's also held each year. We hold continuous online campaigns each year and a series of offline events, and obviously when the pandemic struck, we moved the events to the online format. So here you can see an example of the landing page for the online campaign for WikiGap 2021. So what we've achieved over the 4 years, some of the bits and aspects I'd like to share. First of all, some of the numbers. So as I mentioned, we've been organizing WikiGap for 4 years now. Around 300 participants have joined over the 4 years, and around 3,000 articles on Wikipedia and also Wikilows were created or significantly improved over this period, most of them in the past 2 years. And we've held 6 offline events across the whole of Ukraine, and more recently two large webinars. For the most recent WikiGap campaign in 2021, we held an online campaign for 2 weeks and held 1 webinar, and around 100 participants joined, having created and improved around 900 articles. And we also help promote Global WikiGap Challenge, which is organized by Wikimedia Sweden, and a lot of Ukrainians participate there, but these numbers are only for the local Ukrainian Wikipedia campaign, which is not the same. So here you can see some of the women who appeared in Ukrainian Wikipedia thanks to WikiGap. And some of the achievements I would like to highlight. First of all, the OnWiki community. Over the 4 years, there emerged a strong community who is participating in WikiGap. We've conducted a survey this year, and we see that over 40% of this year's active participants were actively planning to join WikiGap in advance, and over 9 out of 10 of the participants are planning to join future challenges. And not from the data, but from communicating with people, we see that people are motivated by WikiGap to work on bridging gender gaps outside the context of WikiGap during other challenges, just in their regular on-wiki activity. So WikiGap helps promote the topic outside of its specific boundaries in March and April. Here's an example of an offline event when we still have them. Another achievements, another point I would like to highlight is the importance of strong long-term partnerships. So in Ukraine, we have 3 strong partners that make WikiGap possible alongside Wikimedia Ukraine. So Embassy of Sweden in Ukraine, Ukrainian Office of the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, and the Ukrainian representation of the National Democratic Institute, NDI. Why are partnerships important? Because our capacities complement each other. So, for example, Wikimedia Ukraine is the single best organization with resources to mobilize the Wiki community, but we, for example, have fewer financial resources than the Swedish government, for example. And it's also highly beneficial for promotion of the challenge. Each organization mobilizes its audience, and we have a great synergy when we are working together. So now let's hear about and from some of the people who made WikiGap possible. And first of all, we have a recorded message from one of the organizers for the past years, Vera Motorko, user Ata.
I'm Vera Motorko, user Ata on Wikimedia. I took part in the WikiGap initiative as a trainer. In 2019, I was at the WikiGap event in Lviv, and this year, in 2021, I showed the basics of Wikipedia editing at an online event. I really like the idea of this challenge. We definitely need to put effort into writing about notable women figures in justice, but it's not only that. At that event in Lviv, we focused our effort on translating biographies from English Wikipedia into Ukrainian using content translation. From my experience, this is one of the easiest ways to write one's first article. The organizers have a list of suggested articles for participants to choose from. The person is working on a woman's biography that's given in the context of WikiGap. And the newcomer doesn't have to dwell on lots of difficult things, like the notability of the person, because it's already decided. The newcomer doesn't have to think too much on how to best structure their article. The newcomer doesn't have to worry about the citation templates. However, the newcomer is getting a lot of useful information along the process. They get this idea of the kind of people that are notable for Wikipedia. They get the idea of the typical biography structure. And also they get the idea that the sources need to be cited next to the statements. And they can see examples of what kind of sources Wikipedians suggest to use. Most importantly, they are making a big step. They create a new article in Wikipedia that never existed before they created it. And it is rather a big achievement. And it's a pleasant thing to feel, right? So as I see it, the WikiGap event not only provides more articles about women for Wikipedia, it also provides big and positive first experience for the newcomers, which is an incredibly important thing to do. I recently spoke to a friend of mine who attended that Lviv event 2 years ago and wrote her first article there. That article still remains her only article, but the number of her interactions with other people where she's got to tell them that it is possible to edit Wikipedia and that she has a positive experience about it is numerous. And for me, this outreach result is just as joyful as the actual one. I think that in the future, WikiGap can focus not on getting more articles written, but on getting articles written by more different people. Maybe we'll come up with some Bring a Friend initiative, I don't know. Wikipedia is 20 years old, WikiGap is 4 years young. We still have lots of things to try.
So that was an inspiring talk from Vera Motorko, interesting experience. And now some of the other people who make a WikiGap possible, as a quote from another member of the organizer team, Anastasia Ivashina, who was working as a communications manager for WikiGap 2021. She shared with us that she didn't expect that fighting gender inequality can be not only so important, but also so inspiring and interesting. And From her experience, WikiGap is an extremely rich source of valuable stories and a great way to promote the concept of gender equality and editing Wikipedia. And you can also see on the screen that she is inspired by the fact that WikiGap participants are paying attention not only to success stories but also to social programs. So, for example, we got an article about sexual violence against Native American women during WikiGap 2021. And also, I'd like to share stories, not the stories, but the examples from two of the most active participants of WikiGap in Ukraine. The most active one is Andriy Gritsenko, who you may know as the winner of Global WikiGap Challenge in 2019 and 2020. Interestingly, Andriy has a personal challenge of writing at least one article on Wikipedia every day, and he's been doing that for, I think, a couple of years. And he often writes about women, and he also shared with us that WikiGap and other gender-based, gender equality-based challenges inspired him to work on bridging gender gap on Wikipedia outside of WikiGap as well. So here you can see Andriy during the award ceremony for WikiGap Challenge 2019 in Stockholm. And also another participant, an example of whom I'd like to share, is Halina Kacharovska. She is a teacher and leader of a local educational community which is implementing Wikipedia in the educational process in a small town in northern Ukraine. And she is working on attracting students to write Wikipedia and to participate in WikiGap, and she is also an active participant herself. So here's Halina in her Wiki office, or how it's called in their community. Yeah, so that was some of the people behind WikiGap. Of course, there are much more, but we don't have too much time. So I'd like to focus a bit on the future, on the plans for WikiGap in Ukraine and the challenges we are thinking about how to resolve. First of all, the plans. We are obviously planning to keep organizing WikiGap if it's organized on the global level, and we are constantly working on organizing other gender gap focused content campaigns that are focused on other topics, for example, Ukrainian women or women in STEM fields, and so on. We are integrating WikiGap ideologies, quote unquote, in other existing projects. So, for example, we are rewarding articles about women in the same CE Spring article contest. Also, whenever possible, we are expanding or will expand into wider topics of inclusion and diversity. But some of the specific organizing challenges we are thinking about how to resolve, there are a couple of them, but I highlighted two. Maybe some of you will have ideas or your experience on how to resolve them, and maybe you can share them either here now or to me personally. I'll share my contacts in the end. Yeah, so the first question is, how do we incentivize quality over quantity? So it's a constant question for Wikipedia challenges, for Wikipedia campaigns. It's often more fun for Wikipedia editors to create new articles rather than improve existing articles, even though from the standpoint, from some of the points of view, improving existing popular and widely read articles might be more useful for Wikipedia readers. Of course, we also allow when new articles are created, but we want to first of all promote the improvement of existing articles, and we also want to emphasize quality over quantity in the articles that are being created. We started trying to do that. You can see some of the mechanism on the screen in my presentation, but many articles still lack quality we'd like to see. So, for example, there are quite a few quick translations from Russian in the Ukrainian edition. which is not something the community is happy about. Yeah, so one of radical solutions can be focused only on article improvement. We've done such an experiment. It can work, but it has obvious downsides. We also want to work on closing gender gap in terms of the number of articles about women. So this solution can be used in limited cases only. A great solution is involving more people and more time in direct work with participants, with newbies, proactively reaching to every one of them, proactively taking a lot of time to explain Wikipedia rules to them, and so on. This seems like the best solution in general, but it requires a lot of human resources, a lot of staff and volunteer investment that we don't always have. So we are thinking about some other solution as well. And the second question that we are wondering about is how do we make virtual trainings effective? So we've learned how to hold online presentations well. It's a great outreach tool, but it's not the same as in-depth training sessions. And it's hard to motivate people to join a long training sessions online. We did experiment with different options, such as office hours, but it's still far from ideal. So for example, you can see how the webinar looked like, but it's far from in-person training sessions. And we think it's one of the key reasons why we see a drop in newbies joining WikiGap in 2021, because of the lack of full-fledged training sessions. So we are thinking about how to do virtual trainings. Well, one potential solution can be assigning mentors and working in pairs, so one newbie and one more experienced editor. Some aspects of this mechanism are already working in Ukrainian Wikipedia. We have a homepage for newbies, I think it's called something like that, and there are mentors, automatically assigned mentors for newbies. But still, if we want to do it more and better in the context of WikiGap specifically, it requires also a lot of human resources, a lot of volunteer and staff time investment. We are also working on developing a comprehensive online course on editing Wikipedia. It's not the whole solution, but it can be part of the solution. And we are also looking for other solutions on how to make virtual training effective. Yeah, I will now check if there are any questions in the Ether part. I don't think there are questions. So I will be happy to, at least I don't see the questions in Etherpad, which have been supposed to be there. I will check the Remo chat after the session, and we can also continue the conversation. Here are my contacts in case you want to reach out to me. We have less than 1 minute. You can save my contacts, and thanks everyone for joining this session. Hope to continue the conversation on other channels. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.